This section is your macromolecule notes. They're going to have a large data table on it. This is just part of that data table. And up at the top of this data table, you should see the word macromolecules, which again means large molecules. It also has the word polymer, which means many units. So macromolecules are large chemicals and they're made up of many units. This includes a lot of our foods, things that we eat. So proteins, your carbohydrates or carbs, lipids or fats, and nucleic acids. That's probably the one you're not as familiar with. But the others, certainly, if you eat carbohydrate, you're eating cereal or pasta. Lipids is fat, ice cream, salad dressing. Proteins, hamburger, chicken, tofu, fish, and then the nucleic acids, they're found in all foods. So the notes, the way they work is this particular page only shows the first two columns. So this column going down represents the carbohydrates. This column going down represents the lipids. And then there's a third column for nucleic acids and a fourth column for proteins. The way we read the column is we go box by box. So we're going to do carbohydrates. We're going to do this box, which it refers to the building block. So the building block of carbohydrates, or what carbohydrates are made of, or the monomer of carbohydrates. So a polymer is many units. So a carbohydrate is many units of sugars put together. So if you're eating bread, you're eating a bunch of different sugars all bonded together. And if you remember the notes from the biochemistry background, that covalent bonds bond all of our foods or macromolecules together. And we need enzymes to break those down, which is why we have to digest our food. So you may eat a piece of bread, but bread does not float around in your bloodstream. What the bread is made of will, which are sugars. And AKA means also known as saccharides. Now, you can underline the two C's and write a K, the letter K underneath it, because it is pronounced saccharides, not saccarides. The H is silent, so it's like an SACKARIDES, so it's like saccharides. And the EOC final exam, whatever that might be this year, it'll have that word in there. The function, you might need to write down in this box, job. So function means job. So my job or my function is a teacher, to teach. If you're a dental hygienist, you clean people's teeth. So it's the function. What do they do? Carbohydrates provide the body quick energy. So the word quick goes in that line. So here we go. So going down in this box here, in this column, we're now going to go in a different slide for each one of these so that you can see pictures to go along with that. So the building blocks of sugars, saccharides. Function now, you fill in that blank with the word quick. So the function of saccharides is to make quick energy. So that's pasta, breads, grains, cereal. And now the sugars that are found in these carbohydrates are not the same sugars that are found in the Snickers bar. Okay, the Snickers bar does have sugar in them. There's different kinds. There's like 18 different kinds of sugar. So if you happen to be a diabetic, you have to limit the amount of sugar that you eat at any one time. And these are our examples, which are filled in food examples, bread, pasta, corn. They're already there for you. Okay, moving down, body examples. So now within the body, we're in this right here. So this data table is designed for you to know exactly what is required. So body examples, glucose is a monosaccharide. And I hate that they are throwing the vocabulary on you, but Y'all already know what saccharide is. I just told you. Saccharide means sugar. Mono, I bet many of you could tell me what number mono is. If you're thinking 1, you got it. So glucose is only one sugar, monosaccharide. And literally, glucose is what all life on planet Earth, including bacteria, they use it to make energy called ATP. Okay, I'm just going to use the word ATP here. It's not going to be tested in this unit. We'll test that later. But you do need to know energy. So what allows you to have an energy to stay awake is your body takes the sugars, the carbohydrates you eat, and they turn them into energy. And yes, if you want to lose weight, you eat a low carbohydrate diet. You don't eat a lot of carbohydrate. So it forces your body to make energy from fruits and vegetables and proteins and other things that you're eating. It's harder for the body to do, so it won't do it unless you force it. Now, glucose is so important. All plants store glucose as something called starch. So these two things here are what we call starchy vegetables. Corn, which we grow right here in Pitt County, and lima beans, which can grow just about anywhere. You can grow them yourself if you wanted. Those are what we call starchy vegetables. Potatoes would be another one. So it's just vegetables that have a lot of sugar in them. And again, if you're a diabetic, you can't eat a whole lot of these at once. Now, how do we animals store glucose? Well, we store glucose as something called glycogen, and this C is pronounced with a K. So if you want to go back and write here glycogen, if you want to write the letter K underneath this C, you can do that to help you remember how to pronounce it. A lot of problems, students recognize a word, but they don't know how to say it. So on a test, they'll go glycogen. Miss Edwards never said that. So that's not something we learned. It is, you're just not pronouncing it correctly. So it's glycogen. Okay, so this is why if something happens and you have to skip a meal, you are not going to keel over dead. You've got stored glycogen in your liver. That's where it's stored in all animals. It's in our liver. And when we need it, your body just goes in, uses an enzyme to break down the bonds and dumps that pure glucose into your bloodstream. Now, so which of these following are carbohydrates? This is a little what I call a formative assessment. It doesn't count towards an academic grade. And if I give you formative assessments, when I give them to you, you have to write them down or on the computer. They count as a completion grade. So I want you to try. And then a lot of times we go over the formative assessments before we do the graded work so that you kind of know, like, okay, I know a little bit about this, or I was able to look at my notes and figure out this answer. So based on what we just said, number 1, potatoes are a starchy vegetable. So yes, they are a carb. You should know the answer to these 3 are all pictures on the last 2 slides. So all of these are carbohydrates. What about cow, which is cut up into ground beef and steak? Is that a carb? If you thought no, you would be correct. So everything on this slide is a carb except number 4. Bessie the cow, no, that's not carbohydrate. Now, we're going to go up to the second column right here, lipids, in those notes. And we're going to go down the column in order, just like we did with the carbohydrates. So lipids. Oops, sorry, let's come back here. Lipids, building block, monomer, or made of. They are made up of fatty acids and glycerol. And this C is a C. Now, the scientific or biology word is lipid. I want you to put the layman's or the non-scientific term. Write that right in your chart. So come back here and write fats in this box right here, because the word lipid and the word fat mean the same thing. Okay, we're going to talk about lipids though. We're using the word lipids. They function as energy storage. Okay, this is the fat on your body. Most people, including myself, we have too much of it. Okay, food examples, I've got butter, mayo, and oils. But here's ice cream. This is the oil. And this is my parents' 50th wedding anniversary cake. They've been married, they're at 54 now. But the icing is 100% lipid. Okay. All right. Now, moving on to body examples. So right now we're looking at this. We're going to go through these. Okay. So body examples. Okay, hormones. Your sex hormones. Okay, gentlemen, what makes you grow beards and get that really deep voice that the women, we can't get down that far, is hormones. Testosterone makes you grow from a boy to a man. That's your main hormone. It's not the sex hormone. It's not the only one. Ladies, our main hormone is estrogen, and when you start to become women, it's what gives you your menstrual cycle. It's what creates that layer in our uteruses that prepares for a potential baby. Okay, so hormones. Okay, now hormones is not going to be on the test, but just you guys, most of y'all know testosterone and estrogen. You know that you've been changing from men to women and all those things that are happening. So that's why that's there. It is a lipid. Okay, not all hormones are. Some of them belong to a different group. Okay, phospholipid, all you need to know is it's found in all cells. We haven't covered that yet. Okay, now, biggie for lipid is cholesterol. And y'all have heard about cholesterol. Everybody knows about cholesterol. Y'all know that it's bad. Okay, bad cholesterol or fats are solid at room temperature, like butter and mayonnaise. That's the stuff that blocks your arteries. But there is a good lipid. We actually need fat. Every person, every animal needs to eat a little bit of fat. Now, not a lot. 1 teaspoon of butter is 1 serving of fat. And you guys get 3 to 5 a day. I only get 2 to 3. Okay, but the good fat, they're liquid at room temperature, like your cooking oils, not all of them, olive oil, canola oil. They lubricate your blood vessels so that things don't get stuck to them and you get clogged arteries. So there's good and bad cholesterol, and cholesterol is just a fat. Now, I'm just going to, the other slide where it says, see next slide, I'm going to talk about that in class. I actually have a picture of a clogged artery. Let's move on to nucleic acids. So this is that third column. And notice this column's really short. So here it is. The building block or the monomer or the subunit is nucleotides. So that's what you're writing, is all in purple. Now, here's the way I remembered this when I was sitting in your chair. This word begins with nucle, and yes, the C sounds like a K. Nucle and nucleotides. Anything that begins with nucle deals with nucleic acids. Okay, that prefix works. We come back to this prefix in the next unit after this, and then we spend 2 whole units learning about detailed nucleic acids. So nucleic acids. So nucleotides. The function of nucleic acids, they're the directions. Okay, you know how to play your favorite video game, or you know the words to your favorite music because you've practiced them. Living things know what to do because there's a molecule that tells them, and that is nucleic acids. So it tells the cells what to do. It's also responsible for your height and your hair color and your skin tone and whether or not you're a fast runner, not me, or you're really good with music, those kinds of things, nucleic acids. Food examples. All foods we eat come from living things. All living things have nucleic acids. So if you're eating a salad, it comes from a plant. Lettuce lived. In fact, when you eat it, its cells are still alive, and they have nucleic acids in them. The examples specifically are DNA, which I'm sure all of you have heard by now, and RNA. DNA, this is what can be used in a crime scene. If somebody leaves blood behind at a crime scene, then they can figure out who you are. So most of you have heard of DNA like that. The last group is the longest. So the fourth group is proteins. Their building block or monomer are amino acids. So this slide, you're writing down everything in yellow. The function of proteins is to run metabolism. Now, metabolism is a big fancy word. What does it mean? Okay, I want you to write it down in yellow. Metabolism refers to the speed or the efficiency of making and regulating energy use. And the bad thing about people is you guys, your energy making process is very efficient. So you can kind of eat, not every one of you, but a lot of you could eat what you want as long as you do a little bit of physical activity. Doesn't count for much, but you burn it all off. And if you're an athlete, you could eat 5,000 calories a day without any problem, and you're going to burn it off. Well, I hate to tell you, but once you hit 25, that starts to slow down, which is why as people get older, they tend to gain more weight. Because as we get older, we should eat less food, not more. Food examples, you have to write these down. Chicken, fish. This is one tuna fish, and it is longer than the student desks at South Central. And if you have cable and you've ever seen the show Wicked Tuna, it's about fishermen that catch tuna fish right off the coast of North Carolina. And I can't remember what day it comes on, but they just started a new season. So one tuna fish is well over $1,000. So you catch 4 or 5, that's a lot of money. Okay, the very big fish. Tofu is a vegetarian version. These brown things, squares, that's tofu. There's about 10 or so different kinds of tofu. It's like how thick it is. I only like this kind. This is like the most firm, and really to me it tastes like chicken. But it comes really loose, almost like cottage cheese. But it's plant protein, and it actually is better for you than the animal protein. Now, body examples. So we're in the bottom of the data table. Insulin lowers blood sugar. All of these are insulin pens. Okay, you're writing down the word lowers in the blank. And if you happen to be an insulin-dependent diabetic, you have to test your blood sugar. And then these pens have a vial of insulin in them. And then they have a little circular tray of lancets or like tiny microneedles. And they put it right up to their skin and they press the button. And that injects insulin into them. And there's a few different kinds. But if you are insulin-dependent diabetic, that means there's something wrong either with the insulin that you make or with the receptor on your cells. There could be a problem with the receptor on your cells, which we'll talk about later. And then in some people, the cells that make insulin, the body attacks them for some reason and kills them. So whatever the cause, insulin-dependent diabetics, they just inject insulin, and insulin allows your cells to take in sugar. It's kind of like a key that unlocks a door that lets the cell inside your body. Every cell has to do this, and it will take in the carbohydrate, that glucose, so that it can make energy. All of us have hemoglobin. Okay, and that's a protein in the red blood cells that carry oxygen. If you have a disease called sickle cell, it's a genetic disease, you're born with it. There is a problem with the hemoglobin. It's not the right shape. And people with sickle cell, they carry less oxygen in their blood. They have a problem with that. And we'll talk about that a lot later. And For right now, all that's in the notes is just an enzyme is an example of one kind of protein, and they speed up chemical reactions. All you know about enzymes right now is that you need enzymes to break down your food. So we've talked about this one already. You need enzymes, stomach enzymes, and in your small intestines, those enzymes help you break down your macromolecules. So without them, you got a problem. And I just went too far to get back to my okay. All right, so those are your proteins. Okay, and whoops. That will conclude these notes. We will continue others later.